Okay, so today I'd like to continue in the preparation for enlightenment. Because obviously, as we said, we're trying to cleanse the vessel, cleanse the, not only the physical vessel, but remember there are other vessels that we do have. One of those vessels is an emotional body. Okay, you have a mental body, you have an emotional body, you have a causal body also. We haven't talked about that yet, but usually, and your causal body is what you could use to cause things to manifest or happen in your life. But what we're dealing with the emotional body, cleansing the emotional body, because the emotional body is actually one of those things that you use with that causal body to create or to cause things to come into your life because of the emotions that we use. Remember, compassion is one of those things that we talked about a few weeks ago, maybe even last week, that Yahshua would not, or there's no healing outside of compassion, because compassion is one of those things that's in the emotional body that actually goes, you could use this, and this what goes forth, you feeling a certain thing within yourself to the person who you're wanting to heal, and this moves forth from you and moves to the other person. Now remember, we talked about magnetic fields, because everything is within that, and in that magnetic field, there are certain parts of the magnet that comes together, and the magnets also could repel each other. These are the same thing in the magnetic fields, which holds the frequencies are what you vibrate through, okay, or your level of vibration, or whatever you're oscillating at. Okay, so one of those things that's very important in this time period is meditation and prayer. Okay, meditation and prayer is pretty much, if you're going to touch another magnetic field or have something coming into your space, into your field, prayer and meditation is pretty much the mode of doing those things. Okay. If you've heard somebody's ill, pray for the sick. Well, you're going to pray for the sick because what you're doing at that point is causing something to move to the etheric field that's coming from you or someone praying for you, whatever. But now you have a frequency, or your frequency, if you're the one that's doing that, moving through the etheric field, and it's going to somebody else. Now, if you see yourself as this flesh and blood person, and that's how you relate to yourself, it's hard to move something, because in order for you to go down to the gate, you have to think about opening the door, walking down to the gate, and getting something done. Now, if you see yourself now as part of the Creator, because all you really are, you have been emanated from the Creator. The Creator is using you as an instrument, and the Creator wants to use you as an instrument as the Creator is. Okay? Now, you and I have allowed ourselves to be bound in this physical prison, but the mind is not. The spirit is not. Okay. So to go someplace else now, we have to know that there's an effort field that we could move on the bands of that and go anywhere. Just like a remote control, you ain't got to get up and go to the TV, because there's a bandwidth that things is moving on, and it gets over there without you physically going. Something is happening. It's the same kind of science or technology, but it's in spirit. So now, if I want to go down to the gate, I could actually go down to the gate in the very same manner in my mind, knowing that I'm not the physical person. I'm actually light. I'm the same thing as the Father, and I'm a vessel of the Father, and the Father could come through me to go in another area. Now, prayer is how the Father works. Yahshua will send someone by the elementals, commanding them in the same manner, because he knew who he was, and he worked in a certain area for a long time. So he wasn't like you and I now, just kind of breaking out. Oh man, I'm finally figuring out who I am a little bit here. and we don't really have it all the way. He's been in it since being young. When he was 12 years old, he was giving those other guys conniptions about the questions he was asking them. So now think about it, as 33 years old, he's been in certain things for a long time. It's not like you and I been in it for a couple of years here. He's been in it for a long time. We're just practicing. We're just learning how to walk. This brother was running. No problem. So in this now prayers and understanding that the different energies or different frequencies that come into play at different times of the day. Okay? And this is all in line with, what happens during the month. So there's certain cycles in the month, and they happen at certain times. You have certain things happen during the year. It's another cycle. All these things, these certain decades, millenniums, you have the very same thing happening. So there's certain energies that come on during certain times of the day. And if you remember, when David set up the temple and how the order of the temple would be, he said the priest would come and they would minister at the temple, and every one of them had a certain order in the time that they came. Well, he understood this by what Yahweh opened his mind to know that there are certain energies or frequencies, that comes on duty at a certain time. Just how you have your seasons. They come on duty at a certain time, and these guys who were in the temple then gave everything over to these guys in the temple. And there's a different influence that's there, because they're different minds, they're different. Even though they're doing the very same thing for everybody to live, rain, whatever the case is, they're doing certain things, you're breathing, there's a different influence that comes on. So, at a certain time, also, Yahweh tells you and I to pray, because there are different entities that he knows are there during that time. Well, we get something and we go, we ain't got to do this. We set our own time. Blah, blah, blah. Well, we could do that. But he's telling you a certain time. Do this, because at this time, Joe will be at the corner. At that time, Harry will be at the corner. Okay, and Joe will give you this, Harry will give you that. Okay, no. When Yahshua was going to, he's going to go to get his apostles ready for the Last Supper, if you will. He told somebody, go into this area right here, and you're going to see a man with a donkey. Well, how does he know that? He already knew that someone was going to be there, and that individual was going to give them a place for them to have the Last Supper. He knew this. Okay? And he said, go into the next city, and when you go here, you'll see a man here. Yahshua was so in tune with times and what you would meet in sequence. And he allowed that to cause, it wasn't a miracle, but people who don't know it, like you and I, we don't know all of it. When he would use something or do something, we would think it's a big miracle. A lot of times it's just understanding what was in place at a certain time and then instructing them to do it. The apostles were fishing all night. They got done. He knew a certain time was there, and he knew what was going to be happening. And he said, "Okay, go and throw your net up over here now." Dude, we've been doing this all night. We're professionals. Who are you? Come walk on the Sea of Galilee, try to tell us how to do this. No, he said, okay, go up here and do this. They went, and with his command, there's a whole school and more, and they jumped on that, and they almost sunk their boats. Well, that freaked them out, because they hadn't seen this before. Okay, so Yahweh, in this, Yahweh's telling us that at a certain time, there's certain things that are certain individuals or certain frequencies or certain energies that's in play in our field that you're not seeing, but you and I can connect with. Telling us that. So in this now, in what we're doing during these times here, we want to pray, and we want to pray in a certain manner. Pray the way that Yahweh tells us to pray. Just stay in that focus. I know we could do whatever we want to do because we're free moral agents, right? But there's something with staying with what the family has put together. And staying in that place because there's a Father who is telling us, this is how we're going to get out. I'm going to get you out this way. We'll get back on the plan doing these things here. Learn these things, and I'm going to open your mind to more. Okay. But there are a lot of spirits that come by and they want to do this. You want to all of a sudden serve the other family across the street, but you don't want to do what the Father says. Just stay with the family. Okay, so we're going to go over to Psalms. Psalms 55. Okay, and Psalms 55 is telling us something here. We have David. David's a prophet. David set up the priest, how the priest would go and minister at the temple. So he set that up. So here now, Yahweh opened David's mind to all that, and here David is saying in verse 16, look at verse 16 of chapter 55, it says, but as for us, we will call upon you, O Yahweh, and you will save us. Evening, morning, and at noon we will pray and call aloud, and you will hear our voices. Now, you're going to hear our voices because our voices are not just words that we're speaking. Our voices is coming from the midst of us. It's from the magnetic field of the heart. This your frequency is the compassion that you have. It's what you really mean. Because remember now, Yahshua said the individual goes about to pray. He just say empty words. He thinks that he's being heard. So it's not just talking about just the same thing or reading a scripture or whatever. He's talking about meeting your Father, or what if you're praying, seeing it and believing it, moving that thing from you. Believe it or not, people could pray in one nation and pray for someone across the ocean in another nation, and there is just a stream that moves instantaneously in the etheric field, and they're there. Okay, they could see themselves touching somebody else, and they could see themselves being light, touching somebody else, and if they have the emotional connection, they will be doing that at that very time. That compassion, it'll be just as Yahshua was doing it. It is you and I could do the very same thing. Okay, all right. We need practice, however. So now, so we're seeing here at evening, morning, and at noon. This is something that Yahweh is showing us that is taking place. But at this time, there are certain ones who will have come on duty. He's telling you when to get there. Okay? Around this corner, one thing is happening. Around the other corner, something else is happening. He's telling you, get there at this time. So now, that's one thing that he has shown us. Now, we're going to go over to Daniel. So that's one that he has shown us, okay, to come together at a certain time. And if we go to the book of Daniel now, okay, we're going to see something that Daniel, the book of Daniel shows us. We're going to look at verse 10, chapter 6 and verse 10. And here it says, now when Daniel learned that the decree was signed, he went into his house. Now, they wanted to get Daniel, but Daniel was going to stay put doing whatever he was doing. Okay? So individuals wanted the king to, wanted the king to sign a decree that nobody was going to pray to anybody else but a certain way, but Daniel was going to hold his own. But we're not going into what Daniel was going to do, but Daniel's custom from what Moshe had laid down, because remember, Moshe saw something on the mountain, And from whatever was on the mountain, Moshe made a pattern of what he saw on the mountain. He said, make all things according to the pattern that you saw on the mountain. So Moshe wrote this down, and Daniel at the time, that's what he was functioning in. So Daniel now was going to do exactly what Moshe said. Okay? And we saw David already said whatever, what he was doing. So here we see Daniel now. Okay? He learned that the decree was signed. And so he went to his house, and in his upper room, where the windows opened towards Jerusalem, he knelt down on his knees 3 times in the day and prayed and gave thanks and praise before Yahweh, just as he had done before, just as it was his custom, just as he saw, who he knew from the prophet, which David was a prophet, just as Moshe set up, which was a pattern of that which was above. He continued to do this very thing. Now, it says, then these men assembled and discovered Daniel praying and making supplication before Yahweh 3 times a day. So they approached the king and spoke to the king about the king's decree, saying, have you not signed the decree that whoever requests a petition of any god or man for 30 days except of you, O king, he must be thrown into the den of lions? The king answered and said, this thing is true, according to the law of the Medes. This is what we put in order. Okay. So now, and whatever we put in order for the Medes and the Persians, we can't alter that. That cannot be altered. Then they reported to the king and said, that Daniel that you brought in here, okay, who is one of the captives of the children of Yada, does not regard you, okay, nor the decree that you have signed, but he makes his petition 3 times daily. Now, Yahweh, there's a certain time that Yahweh wants us to do this, but we're not going to get there yet. We're going to look at Yahshua now. So we're coming down. We see, that David said certain things, okay, and he got that from Moshe too. Now, we saw that Daniel doing certain things. Well, let's look at Yahshua, because everything switched over to Yahshua, okay, what Yahshua would say. And Yahshua pretty much wasn't there to tear down what Moshe did. Yahshua said, hey, if you believed in Moshe, you will believe in me. Because Moshe, in all those sacrifices and all those symbologies that was going on, Moshe was actually telling you about my day and what I was going to be doing to get you straight. So in chapter 6 of Matthew now, we're going to look at verse 5. Okay? We start at verse 5. And this is the instructions for prayer. And Yahshua says, and when you pray, you must not be like the hypocrites, for they love to pray standing in the synagogues and in the corner of the streets, so that they may be seen by men. Truly, truly, I must say to you, they have their reward. Their reward is that they're seen by men. That's what their reward is. Now, but you, since you can't be a hypocrite, because you have to come and you have to be true. You and I can't come in pretense, or anyone who is going to receive that connection can't come in pretense, because Yahweh knows the heart, right? So if he knows the heart, he knows if we're coming in pretense or not. He knows if we have something there. It says you, when you pray, go into the secret place. And when you have shut the door, he's showing you right there that this is a form of meditation. It's not just, he said he's showing this as a form of meditation. Okay, pray to your Father who is in secret, and your Father who sees in secret will reward you openly in your life, because you will attract certain things. And when you pray, another instructions, do not use mindless repetition as the heathens, or those who really, they may call them fools, whatever the case is, for they think that they will be heard because they speak so much, use many words, or big words, or whatever the case is. But that's not it. It has to be coming from the heart. It has to be through the emotional body. Okay, something has to be with it. Therefore, do not be like them. For your Father knows what things you have need of before you ask Him. After this manner, this is how you should do it. Our Father, who is in heaven, hallowed is your name. Where is heaven? Where is the kingdom of heaven? It's not up in the sky. We have to remember that. It's not up in the sky. Your kingdom come. Your will be done in earth as it is in heaven. This is why you came upon the planet in the first place, to bring this, to project your Father who is in your midst. Okay? And from your midst, He wants to use you and I as a vessel to bring forth whatever He wants on this planet. Now, so give us this day our daily bread. Every day, give us our portion, okay, of understanding as we're ready for it, because it's not going to give us more than we're ready for. And forgive us our debt as we forgive our debtors. We think about that. We have to drop things as we want to get through the door. Okay, so we have to now start to forgive. We have to forgive other people's debt or issues that people, we feel we have with people or people have against us, just in the same way that we want the Father to do for us. This is how we're generating the power of prayer. Okay, so we're opening doors. So now we can't go and fake forgiving. We have to forgive for real. And these are opening doors. But if you forgive, this is some emotions you have put down. You wanted to go do something to another person. All of a sudden you forgive them. That emotion or whatever it is that you felt that person was guilty about and what you want to do for them or to them, that all of a sudden is gone. You put that down. Okay? So you're working with the emotional part of you. You're not just working with the physical part of you. And do not lead us into temptation, but deliver us from evil, or the evil one, or whatever source that will be. And yours is the kingdom. So the evil one is part of that kingdom. Okay, anyone who's going to do something, yours is the kingdom. You are going to allow this, or you're not. It's all you. Yours is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, always and forever. For if you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father, who is in you, who is in heaven, in you, will be doing the same thing, because all you're really doing is washing the inside of the cup, so the outside is going to take care of itself. That's all you're doing. These are magnetic fields that you're working with. That's all it is. So you're cleansing something. But if you do not forgive men their trespasses, neither will your Father forgive your trespasses. So guess what? It's up to you and I. There's nobody sitting up there saying, if you don't forgive him, okay, I'm going to whack him over the head. It's not happening. No, it's what you and I are going to do. Hey, the kingdom of heaven is within you, and it's within myself. And based upon what we're going to do, we're going to exercise it. We're going to exercise that kingdom. Okay? To love somebody, you don't need instruction. It's innately there. Okay? You may need guidance to help you so the emotions don't get in the way of really expressing love, because we get ourselves confused in this life. We think that, okay, if to love, we have to be in a relationship that have love coming back to us. And if we don't feel like love is coming back, we're not going to reciprocate, and we're going to do this, that. No, love is going to be giving, and you're not going to be expecting anything in return. Okay? Because all you're really doing is expressing your Father. And you think about how much we ignore our Father, or how much we did when we weren't becoming awake. And He was still loving us. Well, that's the love that we have to look at in the very same manner. Okay, so we're seeing what Yahshua is telling us now. Yahshua is telling us, okay, in these 3 times a day that you go to pray, well, this is how you are to do it. Because this is how you're going to open the channels or open the doorway to take care of your emotional state, to take care of your mind, so you could get your frequency upon the bandwidth also and cause that to move remotely. That's what he's telling us. We're going to go over to Luke. Okay, so Luke chapter 18. Luke chapter 18, and we're going to come back over to Matthew possibly. So 18 verse and 1. Now, here goes now. This is the persistent woman is a parable. The persistent woman and the unjust judge. So Yahshua is trying to tell us now how to open a door, one of the techniques that you would use to open the door. And you use it through prayer here. So in verse 1 he says, Then he spoke a parable to them about the need for men to keep on praying and not to give up. Even though you don't see anything happening, believe. And when you go to pray, pray from the heart. Forgive your brother or forgive whoever you may feel have something against you. Forgive them. And so the channels may flow, or things may flow through the channels. Saying, there was a judge in a city who did not reverence Yahweh, nor care about man. And there was a widow in the city, and she kept coming to him, saying, Give me justice against my adversary. However, he would not for a while, but afterwards he said within himself, Though I do not reverence Yahweh, nor care about men, but because this widow is such a nuisance to me, because she keeps coming back and not giving up and giving up, I will see that she gets justice, she's going to get what she wants, or she will persist in coming to me and finally kill me. She's going to wear me out. Then Yahshua said, Hear what the unjust judge said. So will Yahweh then not vindicate his own elect, who cry day and night to him? Will he be slow to help them? I tell you that he will vindicate them speedily. So don't stop. Keep on going. However, when the Son of Man comes, will he find this kind of faith upon the planet? Well, that is to say, we're going to see what happens at the time. Now let's go back over to Matthew here real quickly. And we're going to go to Matthew 17. Matthew 17. And if you go to verse 14, and when they had come to the multitude, a man came to him there, knelt down before him and said, Ruler, have mercy on my son, for he is an epileptic and is suffering severely. For he often falls into the fire and often into the water when he gets the epileptic seizure. So I brought him to your disciples, but they could not cure him. Because that's how they handled things back in those days, really, with the movement of light. Believe it or not, the light that was within them. Okay? And so, now, if you think about it, now, certain germs or bacteria can't live in, what's that light? I mean, there's a certain light, it's right on the tip of my tongue, but I really can't get it out right now. There's a certain light that you put over bacteria or surfaces, okay? I'm not worried about the name, but you understand what I'm saying, okay? And you actually start to sanitize the area just from light, because guess what? These negative forces can't handle that light. Well, this is the very same thing that we're looking at right here. The same kind of science. The light in the individual, when there's light in the individual, dark forces can't bind to it. As a matter of fact, dark forces get the heck away. They don't want to have anything to do with it. Okay? Because you're going to disrupt their orientation. And they don't want that. They want to keep it so they can continue doing whatever they're doing. And once they come against you, then all of a sudden, their time, if they do something and they come and bind to you, their time is up. They can't live in that anymore. That's it. Okay? They're gonna be cleansed. They gotta go back to everything to be changed or to redone, whatever. But they can't bind, they can't plug into you and last. Something gotta change. So here we're looking at verse 16 now. Or verse 17. So they brought him to the apostles. The apostles don't yet have enough light in them. But remember, the apostles were going around at this time, and they were curing other people, but they just couldn't handle this one. Okay, so now, then Yahshua answered and said, O faithless and perverse generation, how long will I be with you? How long must I be patient with you? Bring him here to me, and we're going to deal with this in this manner. When Yahshua rebuked the demon, this is a spirit. It's a frequency. It's an energetic field. Okay? And he has an energetic field. Okay? Or should I say a magnetic field. And his poles and the poles of these energies were going to come together. They repel each other. Okay, and since he is the son of Yahweh, this is something that's going to be happening. That's the greatest power that there is, so the other guy has to flee. Well, the same thing with you and I. Harness the power of your Father in you, do as he tells you to do, and he is going to get that light moving in you. Okay? Because he's telling you, we're a family, we came in here to do this particular thing here. Don't go to that family and bring their rules in here. No, keep on doing this because I'm telling you what's going on. You don't know what's going on right now because you have fallen into the mud pit and you're all covered with mud. You can't even see to open your eyes because there's so much mud going on. So just hear my voice because you're not going to see everything. So do it in this way. Okay. So Yahshua now, you see where I leave off. So Yahshua rebuked the demon, and the demon left him, and the child was cured from that very moment. Okay. Then the disciples came to Yahshua privately and said, why could we not cast him out? What's going on? Because we were doing it with others. What's going on with this guy? And Yahshua said to them, because of your unbelief. Now, the unbelief you have now is going to become as part of that emotional and the mental body. It's not part of your physical person. Okay? It's something that is otherwise and it's inside. And it's coming from the depths of the kingdom that has been set in you and I. Okay? So now, so it says, Yahshua said, because of your unbelief. Faith in something. Knowing that whatever your Father said and promised, this is what it is, and I'm going to hold on to it, knowing that other voices are going to come by, because that's what they do. They try to undermine your determination in something. Comes by to knock that out. But you hold fast. Whether they're going to cast doubt, or to say something else works besides that, whatever it is, Yahweh wants you to hold on to what He said. Do what He said. And He's going to open your mind to what Moshe, the spirit of Moshe, was about. So you're going to see what Moshe was talking about. For truly, truly, I say to you, if you have faith as a grain of mustard seed, this is compared to what Yahweh has now. Only this little mustard seed. He said, if you have that, only that much. So imagine what Yahweh has and the capacity that you could do things with within yourself. Because Yahweh is there. Okay, so now, you would say to this mountain, move from here to there, it will move. Notice this part, but this is heavy. And nothing will be impossible for you. Nothing, nothing, nothing will be impossible for you. Why? Because the one that nothing is impossible for is in you, working in you, or working through you. Nothing. Now, we're not going to be asking for selfish things because there are boundaries now. There are boundaries. So the Father is going to make sure that you and I stay within the parameters, because you and I may be in this area that we're in our infantile state and only want for self. And we're forgetting that we're service to others and not service to self individuals. We're forgetting this. And so we may want to start moving in this area of our orientation that is natural for the human spirit. It's natural for the human spirit. Remember, we have been subjected to that. The spirit of degradation that breaks us down. That has been set there in order for us to handle that thing there that's there and manage it in hopes that we will come past that and actually take our offices again. But we're not going to get there if we are mingling all in what we have been set up in, which is all part of what breaks us down. We don't want to be there. We want to harness the power of the Father and the spirit of degradation. Even though we are subject to that, we find ourselves overcoming in spite of being subject to that. So we're moving. So here now, nothing will be impossible for you. Okay? Here, so he's telling his apostles something now. But this kind, nothing's going to be impossible for you, but this kind. This is not the run-of-the-mill demon. This is a demon lama. You have to deal with this guy in a different manner. So, this kind does not go out except by prayer and fasting. Prayer and fasting. Now, Yahshua had already been in that mode. Prayer and fasting, he was already there. He didn't have to go and do something at this point. No, he was an adept. Okay? He's an adept. He prayed and he fasted on a regular basis. And he had the light churning within him. And he would move it out. And it would be always in him, that power. People would touch him and he would feel it leaving. It was always there. Because that's what he said himself. Now don't feel any way if you're not exactly like Yahshua. That's okay. Your Father is still going to use you if you and I could set ourselves in doing what he says first and not going off. Because in the instructions that he gives us, many times test comes in that area, and he wants to see if you're going to stay put or if we're going to allow ourselves to be taken off by the challenges that's there. Challenges will come. Okay, so but we're seeing now some of these things come, and one of the only ways to do it is to get prayer involved in it. Okay, so now we're going to go to James, the book of James. Okay, the book of James, or Yaakov, and chapter 5, let's look at verse 13. Chapter 5 and verse 13. Now, you can pray any time of the day something comes up, you go pray. Okay? However, just to get into the mode of what's going to be managing the inner spirit and actually attuning you and I, with the forces that are, there are certain times that we want to practice that because there's an attunement that's coming together. But something happens, you want to get your hands and knees, or you want to pray to Yahweh driving down the street, you can still pray. You don't even got to close your eyes. I mean, because all that it is just focusing on a certain thing, putting your mind there and say, oh, Father, help me with this, that, whatever. I just heard my mom this, that, whatever. You're gonna do this. Okay, so here goes here in 13, chapter 5 and verse 13. It says here, is anyone among you suffering? Let him pray. Is anyone cheerful? Let him sing songs. Is anyone among you sick? Now, sickness, guys, is a blockage of energy flow. This is what sickness is. Whatever kind of sickness is going to come to the body, this is something that is blocking. Some blockages. Now, what will cause energy to get blocked? Okay? Now, in the spirit world, you think about it. What would cause your pipes to get blocked? That's not necessarily energy. That's kind of physical. But something gets lodged up in there. You flush the tank, but something is not going out because your children came and dropped some toy in there, and all of a sudden, everything is getting hung up on it. Okay? Believe me, I know about this a lot. I deal with children every day. Okay? So something is not going through. There's a blockage. So guess what? All of a sudden, everything is not working in balance because there is energy blocking. Remember, energy flows to the area of least resistance. So there's resistance in the pipe. And this is what we have when we have problems with our sicknesses now. Okay. Is anyone among you sick? Let him call for the elders. Anyone among the called out ones, and let them pray over him. The elders are supposed to be individuals who have been initiated not just as a newborn or a regular individual in the faith, but these are experienced individuals in the faith. Okay? Anointing him with oil in the name of Yahweh. Now, not just calling Yahweh's name, but this is the nature. We're going to do things in a certain manner. And the prayer of faith, believing, okay, knowing that whatever he said, he's faithful to do it. Now, the only thing that's going to stop this prayer is if, like I said, there are parameters, and Yahweh might have done something for this person, for that person to even grow beyond what that individual, where that individual is at right now. Or, if you think about Eob, and think about yourself now coming to pray for Eob, well, Yahweh had already determined that Eob was going to meet certain things. So now everything has to be done according to the will of Yahweh. And that's what when you pray that if it's according to the will of Yahweh, then it will happen. Well, if not, you're not disturbing that will. So here now it says, and the prayer of faith will save the sick. And Yahweh will raise him up, and if he has committed sin, they will be forgiven him. He ain't got to go sacrificing nobody for it. See right there. He's telling you what will happen. Now, this is another way for us to not get blocked up. When we're holding guilt. Guilt is energy. We're holding some kind of guilt. We did this thing right here to this guy and caused some kind of issue, but now we don't want to clear it. This is energy. It's coming to our mind. Energy. It's blockages in the system. He says, now confess your sins one to another and pray for one another, because, hey, confess what has been done, get out in the open. You're removing that thing. You're removing that energy that's in the field. so that you may be healed. You see it? So that you may be healed. Confess your sins one to another and pray for one another. Notice, so that you may be healed. So that that energy will come out of blocking the field. The earnest prayer of a righteous man is effective. It's powerful. It's going to reach to where it needs to be to reach to, and it's going to take care of that bad energy. This is what he's saying. Now, so we're going to look at the times, okay? So David told us certain things here about the times. So now we're going to look at Acts, and in Acts, look at some things here. In Acts chapter 3, let's look at verse 1. Okay? It says, now Kepha and Yochanan went up together, okay, to the house of Yahweh at the hour of prayer. There was an hour of prayer. They knew it. And at that hour of prayer, it was their custom. It was a habit. They went to pray at that hour. Which hour was it? The ninth hour. So the ninth hour for them was a prayer. Okay? And this is about 3 o'clock in the afternoon, whatever the case is. Okay? So this is the ninth hour, but it's not 9 o'clock. It's a different time. Okay, about the ninth hour. So they wanted to pray about the ninth hour. So that's 1. Now, let's go over to Acts chapter 10. Okay, and let's look at verse 3. Okay. Here it says, here in verse 3, it says, about the ninth hour of the day, about 3 o'clock, he clearly saw in a vision a malach of Yahweh coming towards him and saying to him, Cornelius. About the ninth hour, somebody was on duty. He went to pray. He connected. You see what's happening there? Okay. Now let's go to verse 9. The next day, as they went on their journey and drew near the city, Kepha went up unto the housetop to pray about the 6th hour, noontime. He went to pray about the 6th hour. Now he became very hungry and wanted something to eat, but while they made ready, he fell into a trance. About noon, he connected. About noontime, about 12 o'clock in the daytime, right? He fell into a trance, and there was epiphanies, things happening. Okay, now let's go to verse 30. You could keep it. You could go ahead and read this for yourself. We're kind of late, so we're gonna kind of move through this. But you see, things was happening there. Okay? Both to him and Kepha, something came to them and dealt with them. This is the Malach of Yahweh. The Malach of Yahweh was dealing with them. Okay, let's go to verse chapter 10 and verse 30. Okay, 30. It says here, and Cornelius said, 4 days ago I was fasting until this hour. And at the 9th hour I prayed in my house, and behold, a man stood before me in bright clothing. The 9th hour. He's a Gentile, but he's wanting to do the right thing. And he's praying at a certain time, and bingo. Now, what I want y'all to know is that Yochanan, the immersive's dad, when he went to pray also in, because he was a high priest, when he went to pray, it was one of those hours. And Gabriel came to him. Have you remember that? Yeah. And he couldn't say nothing. He came out, he couldn't speak, whatever, and he was trying to sign, whatever, because they had touched his mouth, so he didn't believe. He saw that man in there that came into the precinct with him, and he was like, what are you doing here? You can't come in here. Only the priest can do it. Nothing else. Couldn't speak. I don't think he could speak until the boy was born and gave him his name. Remember that. Okay. He went to pray at a certain hour too. Okay. So here we see that, at a certain hour, these individuals are praying, and they're met. They're met at a certain hour. Okay. Well, that's why we say meditate and pray. Try your best to do it at a certain time. Because other individuals, they're individuals that come unto you. And Yahweh wants you to meet them. When you and I are in a certain state, He wants us to meet them. Okay? Now, Yahshua spoke in a regular manner. They only told you one time that He was in the Mount of Transfiguration. But on a regular duty, He prayed in front of His apostles, and He dealt with past, individuals who had passed, gone, but He dealt with their souls coming there, and He wowed the apostles. They only told you about one time, but trust me, it ain't only one time. That brother went to pray, and all kind of stuff came around. Okay? That's how much he was in tune. He was clear. Conscience was clear. Body was clear. That boy was on top of his game. He had no other desire, he said, except to do the will of his Father. And he said, I came in here for this. This is the reason I came in here. And that's all he had. So you know it was moving through that, brother. Okay, well, he told you and I how to do it. Now let's go to Psalms chapter 5. Psalms chapter 5. Now David was also an individual who was after Yahweh's own heart. So what David did now, David went ahead and set up how the priests would minister at the temple. Well, he did this because he was after Yahweh's own heart, even though he messed up, like I do, like you do, like the rest of us do, He wanted to correct things and be there, get the frequency back rolling. Father, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do that. Please set me back right. This is what he wanted. Okay. So in chapter 5 here, look at verse 3, okay? Our voices. This is talking about your prayers. Our voices. You shall hear in the morning, O Yahweh. We will direct our prayers to you, and we look up with hope. Now, when he says look up now, he's not talking about look up in the skies. No. Shaul talks about, hey, as a man in journeying in this valley of shadow of death, he leave those things that he has come to and now he's imagined, he put that behind him and he looks forward. This is looking up to whatever he's going to meet again, because Yahweh has the different challenges at every corner, my brother. Okay, at every corner. Yeah, you see corner in the scriptures a lot of times. Okay, when the prophets are speaking on a corner, is in life changes, things that turn wherever you're going to be meeting something. Okay, so here now he says, you are not a father who has any pleasure at all in wickedness. Now, wickedness is actually when you and I know something, but we won't do it. Remember the wicked servant? In the parable of the talent, the guy who had the least amount of talent he received, he buried the talent. And when everything came to maturity now, he said, okay, he will do talent back. Hid it in the dirt, Now here he goes. And the ruler says, "You wicked servant, you knew." So he said to him, "You knew. You knew what I'm about. So you didn't do what I told you to do. You did what you wanted to do. So now I'll snatch that talent back. And now look where you at. Okay. Now the talent that I gave you, I'm going to give to somebody who's going to work it. And is going to get me some interest." Okay. So he has no pleasure at all in you and I knowing what he says, but deciding not to do it. "And evil shall never dwell with you." Now let's go over to Psalms 88 now. 88. Psalms 88 and verse 13. It says, "But to you have we cried out." This is praying. "To you have we cried out, O Yahweh, in the morning. Our prayers come before you." It's telling you. "Why, O Yahweh, do you reject us? Why do you hide your face from us?" Now, there's a reason why Yahweh hides his face from us. Because Yahweh is telling us, listen, whatever I'm going to give you right here, you do exactly what I say, and my face is going to shine upon you. Why isn't his face shining upon us? If it's not, it's because we're not doing what he said. Because here it says, you do this, this, and this, my face is going to shine upon you. So why does his face, why is his face hidden? Because somewhere on the line, in the magnetic field that we're in, we are attracting something that ain't proper, and we're getting caught up in it, okay? Or we're repelling something that we should not be repelling because we don't want to deal with it. Whatever the situation is, there's something going on. Now, you think about the children of Israel, they were going through the land, and they were going to the different nations, and they were conquering these nations. Of course, these are writings. So these writings are like, okay, you're going through these different places right here, and you're warring against this nation and that nation and that nation, okay? But these nations are in you. You're going through it, and there are 7 nations larger and stronger than you, and these are influences that you and I already got in there, that we have become subjected to, and they're influences of degradation. Okay. This is what it is. Where now Yahweh is directing us through that, and at a certain time, Yahweh said to the commander of the army of Israel, here, this is what you're going to do. You're going to go into this nation, and we're going to be with you. I'm going to send my Malach with you, and we're going to be with you, and you're going to take this nation out, but make sure you do not take anything from there when you go in there. Don't take nothing. Okay? Everything is subject to be destroyed over there. Don't take nothing. Well, I have this little thing in me. Or Israel has this little thing in Israel. But Israel is me. So I go ahead and do the thing now, and I see a little gold nugget over there, and I just got to have it. Man, gold is $3,000 an ounce. I got to have that, $3,000 an ounce. And I go and snatch that, stick it in my pocket. Just sure, this won't do nothing. It's $3 investment, $33,000 an ounce. This is a good investment. I'm not thinking about Yahweh. I'm thinking about self. Well, all of a sudden, things start going in the wrong direction right now because all of a sudden, his face ain't shining upon me. Why? Because I didn't do what he told me to do. He said, leave everything. Don't take anything from there. Don't grab anything. And you saw the same thing when Israel came back. Somebody done stuffed something in his shirt. Came out. Didn't think anybody was going to, it's going to be found out. Israel got whacked, smacked all over the place, lost people. So the head of the congregation come back now and says, hey, why did this happen? You told us to go up there and do this. Well, why you beat us? Go check out your boy down the block, his pockets. And you're going to find out what's going on. or search really deeply within yourself. Pray tonight, and I'm going to show you while you're praying. And while you're praying, all of a sudden you're going, and all of a sudden it comes to you, go, because it's there. It's like, oh shoot. Okay, well that's going to be one that I got to deal with. Sometimes we got to set plans up to how we're going to bring that boy down, because there's something that's entrenched. It's entrenched. Well, if it's entrenched, he said, some of these, or this one, you got to go and deal with this one with prayer and fasting, because that guy's entrenched. It's not coming out just by you doing the regular thing. He's in there. Claws this long, and he's grabbing. He ain't coming out. So we got to look at that. So in this time period that we're going in, guys, and we're in right now, one of the things that we're going to do, and it's a major part of what we do, is prayer and meditation. Yahweh says that in prayer you're going to break the bands of wickedness. Break the bands of wickedness? What I should be doing but I don't want to do, you can break it. That's what he says. You can break it. So we got to think about that. And in all that we're doing, that's just one of those things that we come to because we want to continue ascending to our Father.